How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to learn how to use the Kubernetes CDK or the cdk8s to create a Kubernetes manifest in a general purpose programming language. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull the parameters and the environment variables from CloudTruth. All right, so first things first, you're going to have to install it. And there are a few options. So I'm on a Mac, so I use Homebrew, but you can also use npm or yarn. Now the next piece is this. This CDK supports 4 languages: TypeScript, Python, Java, and Go. So what we're gonna do, just for the purposes of this video, we're gonna utilize Go. So let me head over to VS Code really quick. And I have a few instructions here that are available that you can walk through as well. And I already have a project set up with Nginx deployment, as you can see here. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna follow the same thing, except I'm gonna just call it test. So let's do this. Let's do mkdir test. And as you can see, I have a new directory here open called test. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cd into test. And then I'm going to run the CDK command. So that's going to be cdk8s init go app. So that's specifying that we're initializing a Go app. And then really quick, if we just go over to the web browser, and let's say we click on Python, for example, you can see here that it changes. So if it's Python, it's going to be Python app. If it's Java, it's going to be Java app, Go app, TypeScript app. You get the picture. So now let's head back over to VS Code and let's go ahead and run this. All right, it's going to go ahead and it's going to initialize the project. There's a template here that's available. And as you can see, a bunch of stuff gets created, including the YAML, the main.go, the dist, which is going to be where our configuration is going to go, and a bunch of stuff. Now, here's the thing about this project. It creates a module called example.com / whatever the directory you're in. Now this example.com thing is annoying because we definitely don't want to use that in production. So here's what we got to get a little bit crazy here. So we have to just delete the example.test piece, okay, which you can see right here. And then what we need to do is we need to replace everything, because here's what happens. If we open up an import, for example, it has all of these library configurations here, but it gets created with the example.com / whatever the directory name is. So we literally have to just go like this. We're going to type in example.com / test. In your case, it may be Nginx deployment if you're following this like this. And then I'm just going to replace it with test. Now this is, I know, a little bit like duct tape, obviously, but this is what we got to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this replace. All right, and we're good to go there. Now what we need to do is we need to clean the cache. And to do that, we're going to do go clean mod cache. This is because, again, we changed the module name. So we need to clean out the cache. That's pointing to example.com / test. And then we're going to run a go mod tidy. And it's going to pull down all the configurations that we need right here. So if I go back into my go mod file, we can see all of the required libraries. So now, if I open up the main.go, this is the template here that you get. And what you can see here is it says to define resources. All right, so we're going to define our resources there. But before we can do that, let's head over to CloudTruth really quick. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a new project. You can call it cdk8s. And then you're going to want to create some parameters, just like here. So as you can see, I got the container image, the container name, the deployment name, the port, and the replica count. And I have all the values here available to build our Nginx application. So go ahead and create a new project in CloudTruth, and then do the same thing. Add the names here and the environment variables, because we're going to be calling upon these names here in a second. All right, so once that's complete, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my pre-populated project that I already have available. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up that main.go. And as you can see, it's the same thing from a template perspective, except I've added in a new Kubernetes deployment. So what this is doing is this is creating a Kubernetes manifest, essentially, that's using the deployment resource or object. So as you can see here, we're doing things like the replica, we have the labels, the container spec, or the pod spec rather, all that stuff. Now, here's what we need to do to pull the configurations from CloudTruth, or rather the environment variables or the parameters. we need to call upon the OS because that in Go is how you use environment variables. So notice here how I'm doing that. I got the os get env, all the functions here, and as you can see, I'm pointing to the parameters that we specified in CloudTruth. Now, here's where things get a little bit funky. We were able to figure it out, so we're all good to go. For the replica and for the port, it's expecting a number in this number function from the JSI library. Now, here's the thing. When you call upon an environment variable, you utilize a string. So what I did was I used the string conversion to parse a float, aka convert a string to a float. Now the reason why I couldn't put this line right here in, for example, right here on line 35 is because when you use the parse float function, it has two values. It has the value itself that you're converting and then an error value. So I literally just turned the error value empty and then I was able to utilize it here. As you can see, I'm calling upon the variable, and then the replica variable is right here. So a little bit of a funky workaround, but that's okay. It was figured out. So now what we need to do is we need to run first I need to cd into my proper directory. So now what we need to do is we need to call upon CloudTruth. We're going to call our cdk8s project. We're going to specify our environment, and then we're going to run the cdk8s synth command. Okay, so that's the command that synthesizes and creates the manifest for us, but we need to run it in this fashion because we're using CloudTruth to pull down the values. So let's go ahead and run that. We'll give it a few moments. All right, and as you can see, that worked as expected. If I open up the dist directory and open up our YAML, as we can see, we now have our Kubernetes manifest, and it's calling upon our values that we specified inside of CloudTruth. And that's how you can use the CDK8s or the CDK for Kubernetes and CloudTruth. Thank you so much for watching.